Hey guys, PJ here.
And Clever.
We are the Monster Hunter Brothers. Today we are going to be talking about 5 builds that everyone should try at least once in their monster hunting adventures.
Now, we're not here to argue meta, but we do have a lot of cool builds that do pump out quite a bit of damage or quite a bit of efficiency. Now, some of these builds are meta, some of these builds are universal, some of these builds you might actually end up hating, but we definitely recommend you at least check them out. So with that being said, let's get started. So guys, this is by far my favorite build in the game. It takes hits, it dishes damage, it's unstoppable. Now PJ literally just tried it on my account. What'd you think, dude?
I think it's incredible. There's definitely a lot of hype around this build, but actually trying it, I can see why. 7 shots, 50 hits, you're hitting about 350, have the potential of hitting 400 each shot. It's great.
So the first thing to notice here is we're using the Safi Burstcannon, best spread gun in the game. We're using 3-piece Safi for that extra affinity boost, and then we're using that 2-piece Raging Bracky so we can get that Agitator secret. We're rocking the Resentment Charm so we get that extra damage, Guard 5, health boost, free element, everything. We got spread, a little bit of crit eye, but we get pretty close to 100% affinity on this build while hitting maximum damage. Now there are some rare decorations in this set. You can make a budget build, 100%. So there's definitely a couple essentials in this set. Getting your Agitator up high as you can is essential. Getting Tenderizer in there is essential. And making sure that you have those spread jewels are essential. You might not get quite the same damage that PJ and I are getting with a budget build, but you'll still be hitting ridiculous numbers and you'll cut your time down a lot. If we move on to the Awakenings, we see that we have 2 attack upgrades, 1 slot 3 upgrade, a recoil suppressor, which is kind of rare, it kind of sucks to get, and spread capacity 3. These are all super essential.
Now I think it's fair to say that there is so much information that surrounds Safi builds that we could just get lost in this video. We simply just want to point out some of the big pros that strike interest in the players.
Now, one of the big perks of this build is that it has ridiculously high elemental damage. Another perk is that we can use it for a ton of different weapons. You see in this video that I'm using a charge blade, I'm using a light bow gun, I'm using dual blades, and it doesn't stop there. Now in this clip I've zoomed in here to show you my affinity and my elemental damage. Now when I draw my weapon, this is when the armor secret kicks in, and you'll see that my affinity shoots up 40% and my elemental damage shoots up a ton as well. Now the first thing to keep in mind with these builds is that we're using full Safi armor. So in this example, I'm using the Kjarr Decay longsword, which uses dragon elements, so I have that increased dragon element. I have Agitator 5, I have Resentment 5. What Resentment does is it allows for you to have increased attack when your health bar has that red space in it. Now this space in your health bar, it happens automatically when you use the Safi armor and strike with it. Go ahead and play around with it and try things out. Feel free to message us with specific build questions.
This is a fantastic tank build. You're not going to feel any more comfortable than rocking this bad boy. You can take so much damage, and believe it or not, it puts out a decent amount of damage as well.
Now the first time I heard of Immortal Build, I thought it was kind of BS. I always thought this game was best playing for offense and not playing for defense. And then I saw PJ try it, and I was blown away. Now this is Tempered Ruiner Nergigante. PJ's playing on my account, and he hits us like 1,500 times here, and we don't die.
This is a great build to learn about monsters you're not very comfortable with. You won't have to really worry about taking a hit, eating those health potions. It's going to really help you with those challenging high rank master rank quests like Safi and Nergigante.
Now first I got to give a shout out to my buddy Finn who gave me this build. You notice that I'm using a Safi weapon here, and I'm using it for strictly that Black Veil Awakening, which pairs well with my gloves for that Black Veil secret. I'm using a 2-piece gold Rathian for Divine Blessing secret, and I'm using a Safi helmet and the Garuga Greaves. You'll notice that I'm using the attack charm, and I also have a lot of expert or critical eye to get my affinity up. So not only are you taking a lot of damage with this, but you're also dealing a decent amount of damage. Here's a quick look at the awakenings for the Safi weapon. You notice I'm using the Val Soul Vein awakening to get that armor secret. I have defense, attack, and then 2 sharpness.
Now the Gathering build is excellent to have in your plethora, especially when you get to farming. Definitely best perk on the build is Detector. You open up the map and it's going to give you the location of bone piles and mining cores, and it's going to save so much time getting to those locations instead of just looking for yourself.
Another great perk is Forager's Luck. It allows you to get more items from these draw points. So you'll see here that I'm getting way more bones than I ever would without it. So there's a lot of perks on this build that you probably never ever use without this build, right? Intimidator, Stealth, Geologist, Botanist, Marathon Runner. You might use Marathon Runner. But Heat Guard. Another cool thing about this build is the decorations don't require much in-game content. You get a lot of the stuff pretty early. Now you'll notice on the next slide that there's also Carving Pro, Forager's Luck, Detector, and Cold Proof. Now on this build, I'm using a random Safi weapon, and I'm making sure that I have the Awakenings set to slot upgrade 4. Now this armor does have some rare armor pieces. Cool thing is you can use pretty much any armor piece. For a while I was using Safi pieces and just plugging these gems in.
Now for me personally, this is my favorite build. Purple sharpness with a high damage hammer. I personally think nothing beats it. I like to play getting up close and personal, getting my hands dirty, so I think this build is perfect for those guys who like to be close quarters.
Not only does this build pump out a ridiculous amount of DPS, but the build also comes with a couple armor secrets that are really worth mentioning. Now this armor uses 2-piece Raging Bracky and 3-piece Kaiser armor. Now Kaiser's just Teostra armor, right? It's just a fancy name. Master's Touch, what Master's Touch does for you is when you're hitting critical hits, when you're using your affinity correctly, you're not losing weapon sharpness, which means you get to keep your damage multiplier. The other important factor of this build is also the Agitator secret, which you get from the 2-piece Raging Bracky. Now there's a bunch of videos on the math of weapon sharpness, so we won't get into that. But take a look at how many builds you can use with the Master's Touch build. Now you see a lot of weapons here. There's Sword and Shield, there's Hammer, there's Great Sword. You can use them for any blast weapon. It's extremely good for Safi blast weapons and Raging Bracky weapons.
Alright, there you have it guys. 5 builds you should try at least once in your monster hunting adventures. We hope that you enjoyed it. And feel free to like and subscribe and comment any questions or suggestions that you may have of videos you'd like to see us post in the future.
And be sure to check out our guild, the Jigoku Wolves. The link will be at the bottom of the page. You'll also see a clip at the end of our video. They're a huge reason we did this and a big inspiration.
Nergigante.